Yeah, sorry about that, man.
Nah, things happen. Things happen. All right, open the show here. We're going to do this again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the No Cover TV podcast. That's right. I'm your host, Big Al, and I bring you that original and local national music from all over the world. And we have amazing music out there, all genres, all age groups. You need to get on your computers, go to platforms and check it out. It's incredible. Please check out the past shows of No Cover TV and, of course, the upcoming shows. We have a lot of great musicians and artists coming on, and we are already booked all the way through June. It's amazing, amazing. It makes my heart very big to get your story and your music out there. We have a wonderful show for you today, and we started the show, but we had a little technical difficulty. So we're going to get right back into the show immediately because I don't want to lose any time. So what we have in the house is an amazing artist. Let me tell you a little about this gentleman right here that I want to present in just a second. He's a singer-songwriter, storyteller, but most of all, he's a Western swing country artist, one amazing country artist. And to me, he's a true cowboy. Amazing. Eric Diamond is in the house from Los Alamos, New Mexico. Eric, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Al. How are you?
Good. You ready to restart this?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, good deal. So we were chatting a little bit and talking about your music, which is simply amazing.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We've done 2 albums and have had extreme success with both of them.
I see that. I see that. Now, I have a lot of questions for you. We're going to get some serious ones, and then we're going to go to some fun ones, and we're going to take you all over the place. What I like to do with my artists, and if you don't mind, I want to get in your head a little bit. Can I do that?
One more time. You want to what?
Get in your head. I want to find out what you're about.
Absolutely.
Right.
There's not much in there, but give me a whirl.
All right, let me find my way into Eric's head here. Okay, I think I found an opening. All right, Eric, we're going on the time capsule. All right, you've been doing this a long time, but I'm going to bring you back to when you're around, let's say 13 years old. What was Eric listening to music-wise at that time?
Well, I had 2 older sisters and an older brother, and both my parents liked music, and everybody pretty much had different tastes. But my one sister was a big Cat Stevens fan, which was not really my cup of tea. I did get exposed to the Eagles at a very young age, which we all loved. My mom, I liked the music she listened to most of all. She was a big Johnny Cash fan, Elvis, Patsy Cline, Marty Robbins. My father was a big Jim Reeves fan, George Jones, Loretta Lynn. Grew up with a lot of traditional country. Also, my father listened to classical music, which as a kid kind of drove me nuts. But anyhow, I got a big exposure to everything, I guess.
I guess you did. It sounds like me at a young age. I listened to a lot of Lawrence Welk with my grandmother, and I loved it. I actually did.
The Lawrence Welk show was on, and my father that was a ritual.
Yes,
not
it
to
was.
Be interrupted when Lawrence Welk came on.
No, you did not say a word. No. So that was a great time back in those eras. And so I want to ask you, we're moving up. Now, when did you decide at what age that you wanted to get into music?
Well, I started singing at the age of 10 in the choir, the school choir. And I was an athlete, played 5 different sports, and was a 5-sport letterman in high school. But I started, I loved music as far back as I can remember. And every opportunity I got to perform, I would take advantage of. And then when I was 15 years old, I signed up for the Jimmy Dean Country Showdown, made it to the state finals in that. And I also made it to the state finals in the Charlie Daniels Country Showdown about a year later. At age 15 was when I got hired for my first ever paid job
Wow.
And I was hooked ever since, pretty much.
I'm 15 years old. You got paid to do this.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I was very, very lucky. I grew up in a
Very.
community, even though I was born in Los Alamos, we started spending part time in Colorado from the time I was 12 years old. We bought land in Colorado. My father did when I was about 14, I guess. And then I really started singing a lot. The community we grew up in, the number, or that I grew up in, the number one industry there was horses and mules, and they would bring in thousands of horses in the springtime, and cowboys from Wyoming, Montana, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma would converge on this valley to work for these horse outfits, breaking
Wow.
horse outfits and doing everything from 1 and 2 hour trail rides to 5 and 10 day pack trips and so forth. And just the exposure of all the cowboys and the Western culture as a young kid, I was hooked. And really, on Friday and Saturday nights, the thing to do was just down the street it was actually there were horses outside and everything. It was an outfitter's stable, but it also was a saloon and bar called the Cowboy Bar. Had live 5-piece country bands every Friday and Saturday night, and I would go there every weekend and sing and dance. Then I started getting hired by bands, throw together bands, doing jobs here and there.
Right.
Pretty turned into fairly steady weekend work. And then
Nice.
occasionally I'd land a Wednesday night job, or we had a Sunday house band job a couple of different times. Then in my early 20s, I went to work with my first road band called Cowtown Swing. The band leader was a gentleman named Bobby Francis, who had worked for John Conley during the rose-colored glasses era. And I worked 5 years with that band, primarily playing in Colorado, a little bit in Kansas, a little bit in New Mexico.
Incredible stuff. At 15 years old, you start and you just made a pathway for yourself. Incredible.
Yeah, I knew, at a very young age that I wanted to do music. The crowd response was always good. A lot of that probably was because I was a kid, and so that gave me a bit of an advantage, I guess. And then the older people liked me, and Bobby Francis was one of the first people to take me under his wing and teach me a lot about the business side of the game. And we toured for 5 years together. Then that band, a couple guys in the band left. One was going back to college to get a degree. The other gentleman wanted to pursue some other endeavors. And I was the youngest guy in the band. I was, like I said, early to mid 20s. Everybody else was in their 30s and 40s. After that band was over, I came back to Durango, Colorado for a summer. I worked with a guitar player named David LeDuc from Denton, Texas, who had worked with a major artist named Jeff Johnson, who was with a major label. I can't remember if Jeff was with Arista or Atlantic, but anyhow, they were opening for acts like Merle Haggard and Gene Watts and some of the big stars of that time. Well, David and I became good friends, and Jeff was a dear friend of mine, another person that really mentored me at a very young age, in my late teenage to early 20 years. And we played all summer. We played in the Diamond Bell Saloon at the Strater Hotel during the day, usually 5-6 days a week. And then on Friday and Saturday nights, we played with a 5-piece band in the Honky Tonks. We had a house band on Sunday afternoons at a different bar downtown. We saved our money up, and in the fall, we packed our bags and headed to Nashville to chase the country music dream. And
chase the dream, Nashville.
That was my first experience in Nashville. It went extremely well. God has had his hand in my entire life. I realize now. I didn't always realize that, but I ended up living with Win Varble and Gerald Smith, who ended up being huge, successful songwriters, making, incredible amounts of money. They've had, they've had cuts with George Strait and Little Texas,
yes.
Sammy Kershaw, Lori Morgan, on and on. And I was there from the very beginning, with those guys. Wynn was the only one that had an industry job. He was writing for a company called Starstruck, which was owned by Reba McEntire. And he'd somewhat recently landed that job when I moved in with them. Gerald, none of us, everybody else had straight jobs, and, we're trying to get into the business. There were 4 of us living in a 2-bedroom apartment in the poor side of town in Antioch. But anyhow, Gerald Smith, this is one of my favorite stories. He had the worst job of all of us. He had to be up at 4 a.m. and working by 5 a.m. He worked on the loading docks. And Gerald wrote a song called Every Second, Every Minute, Every Hour, Every Day that went top 10 for Colin Ray. And I'll never forget, we were all in the living room at, 5:30 in the evening or whatever. And Gerald walked in, he was like, check this out. And he had his first royalty check was $87,000 off that.
Wow.
Yeah. And then 6 months later, he co-wrote What Part of No Don't You Understand, that broke all the records for staying. It stayed on, I believe it was Billboard, stayed at #1 for 16 weeks, which had never been done before. And the rest is history. So I fell in with a good bunch of guys. I actually landed a songwriting deal, but I wasn't really a songwriter, and I still don't really consider myself a songwriter, although I've written a few songs recently that are doing extremely well on radio. But I landed a job work for Ronnie Stoneman from the television show Hee Haw.
Yeah.
That was very short-lived because while I was in Nashville, my wife decided she had found someone she would prefer to be with. And I was pretty devastated at the time because I had a young son and a young daughter that was not my biological child, but I had raised her from the time she was 6 months old. So I was really devastated, actually, and didn't know what I was going to do. I came back west. I ended up getting a job as a high school basketball coach because I played basketball in college.
Okay.
And I continued to keep my chops up. I would perform every chance I got down in Santa Fe because I was coaching up in Los Alamos, New Mexico at the high school there. And anyhow, after 2 years of that, I got a phone call from a gentleman named David Blanchard, who had known me from the past. We had worked together in multiple different Throw Together bands over the years. And he was the band leader of a band called the Midnight Rose Band. David called me and said, hey, man, we got 27 nights booked. And our lead singer just packed his bags in the middle of the night and headed back to Louisiana. Can you help us out? And I said, absolutely. And it was a Friday when he called me. I said, I'll be there Monday. And 27 nights turned into 3 years. So I worked with that band for 3 years, which was great. And it felt good to be back in it full time. After that 3 years, I ended up working as an in-house entertainer. I started out as a bouncer, actually, and then within the first 2 weeks, they moved me to floor manager. Once they learned that I was a singer and a dancer, I was entertaining with all these national road acts every week that would travel through. And I put a Rolodex together of musicians over the 12-month period. And then I started my own band, Eric Diamond and the Rocky Mountain Playboys. And we had a giant local following. We were playing in clubs that had never had bands before just because we were packing everywhere we went. We packed the house. And part of that was it was just good timing and fate. Two local guys in the band, Waylon Grimes and Sean Hendricks, that had a big personal following of their own, and we all joined forces. And Ellis Miller was the band leader. He had worked with Ray Price, Hank Thompson, and was a session player on the West Coast for artists like Red Sovine. And so we had a great band, a huge following. We played all the time, and word leaked out about us to Farmington, New Mexico, which wasn't far, just across the border. And we ended up getting in an agent-only club called The Office. And later on, we ended up getting a 5-year contract with them as long as we wouldn't play their competition in town. They would give us once every 5 weeks for a 5-year deal, which we took that offer. And then a good friend of mine named Czech Rippey that had been with a band called the Delp Band that made it all the way to the final round on television of Star Search. And then Czech went on and played on the Grand Ole Opry and actually was showcasing for all the major labels when 9/11 happened. But Czech recommended us to an agent-only club in Ruidoso, New Mexico. So we started playing the 2 agent-only clubs plus our regular honky-tonks and bars. And agents started to wonder, who's this group that's playing these clubs without an agent? So they started contacting me. And I know it's a long story, but when it all was said and done, we had 13 national agents booking us, and we were working in 11 state region, playing what's called the A-room circuit, which were the biggest nightclubs, country western bars in the West. We played, Colorado, New Mexico extensively, a little bit in Texas. We played in Nevada, Arizona, Montana, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Things were going really well. We had an agent that was, we were just about to go into Canada and start playing in Canada. We had 2 cruise lines interested in us, Carnival and one other that I can't honestly remember. But my father came down with cancer. I was actually playing in Billings, Montana at the time. My mother called me and said, you might want to think about getting home as soon as you can. Your father's taking a turn for the worse. So we only had 2 or 3 nights left in Montana. We finished up the job. I contacted all the agents, and we had worked with all these agents for 6 years. So we had a great rapport with them. Plus we had built a true friendship with them as well. And I told them, what the condition of my father was, and that I would fulfill whatever we had on the calendar, but please don't give us anything more at this time, because I didn't know how long it was going to be or what I was going to be up against. I sat down with all the members in the band, told them they were more than welcome to stay. I had a little horse facility, a little 10-acre farm, and we had housing I could house about 6 guys. So we would bring in musicians from coast to coast, or Nashville, New York, upstate Washington, and everybody would live on property, and we all traveled together. So immediately a couple of the guys landed jobs. Paul Bucks was playing guitar for us at the time. His father had been a Texas troubadour for Ernest Tubb, and he immediately landed a job in Louisville. Another one of our musicians immediately landed a job in the Phoenix area. The piano player stuck around for more than a year, which was great, because old Rex Herring was his name. He was the most responsible guy in the band by far, myself included. And he took care of things while I went to New Mexico and took care of my father. And Ronnie Klein, the drummer, stuck around for a number of months. He ended up working for Fiddlin' Frenchy Burke and Doug Kershaw, and others. And he's still in the business down in Phoenix now. I keep in touch with most all these guys, because when you live with people for 6 years and you eat 3 meals a day and you travel together all over the country, you truly become a family. And we've remained friends to this day. Pretty much all of us have. And every now and then we get an offer to do a reunion gig. So we do that. But at that point, I thought my career was over, and I was okay with that. I'd done 22 years. A lot of my dreams had come true, playing the A-room circuit and being able to work in 11 states and get that kind of exposure was all a dream come true for me. I pursued some other endeavors. My father passed away, and I stuck around to make sure my mother was going to be okay, because they had been married for like 45 years. Yeah. And then skip ahead a little bit. 15 years ago, I had a friend take me to the Bob Wills Festival in Turkey, Texas, which is the greatest Western swing festival on the planet. If you ever get a chance, you really ought to attend it. It's
I'd love to.
officially it was a 3-day event, but now it's basically a week long. And it's a town where less than 500 people live. But 2 years ago, 50,000 converged upon the town of Turkey, Texas for the Bob Wills Festival. That's how incredible this thing is. Anyhow, the Texans, the same thing happened to me when I moved to Nashville the first time. People noticed me as a dancer first because I actually dance 20 times better than I sing. But they want to know your story. And so they found out I was a singer, and in short order, I was on stage performing. I've performed in some facet at that festival for 15 years now. They have 3 stages that have dance floors there, and I've been lucky enough to perform on 3 out of the 4. And hopefully one day I'll get the big nighttime headliner stage. But I did get to sing the last 2 years at a venue called the Church of Western Swing, which is meant a whole lot to me. That was a goal of mine. It's invite only. All the Hall of Fame guys play there all week long. And I finally got the invite to sing there 2 years ago. This will be my 3rd year. I've sang at Hotel Turkey, which is another big music destination. It's becoming the next Lukenbach. And then they have an outdoor pavilion called the Slab. Big dance floor, big covered outdoor pavilion, and musicians come and go all day long. They'll have some of the stars drop in and perform, and a lot of the local guys and just everyone that's involved with Western Swing. And I've performed on that stage for 15 years now. 8 years ago, a Hall of Fame fiddle player named Grady Smith got me and my steel guitar player, Larry Bressington, who's in Great Britain's Country Music Hall of Fame and the Nebraska Country Music Hall of Fame, steel guitarist, got us to join the Western Swing Society of the Southwest. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I wish I'd have known about that organization 25 years earlier. But the last 8 years, I'm working with all these guys that have worked for Ray Price, Carl Smith, Hank Thompson, George Strait, Roy Clark, et cetera, et cetera. And that really accelerated this comeback because I wanted to get back in the music business, but I didn't know how to do it, especially with my age being a little older than what Nashville was promoting and so forth.
Right.
So then during the COVID, I re-released an old album, and I really didn't re-release it to get back in the business. I actually was not doing well health-wise, and I actually thought I was not going to be around much longer. And I wanted to show some of these Hall of Fame guys that I had done a legitimate project at one point in my life. And so I started sending it out to all these musicians that were Hall of Fame guys that I'd worked with, and different industry people and old friends and whatnot. Well, a lady from New York that knew me as a dancer, and she was on the Fort Worth Cowtown Society of Western Swing board. She didn't know I was a singer, but she knew me as a dancer. And when she found out I had this album, she contacted me and said, "Hey, can I get you on some radio stations?" And I thought, well, great. I hadn't been on the radio since the 90s and early 2000.
Okay.
And so she got me on. It wasn't a lot of radio stations. It was 17 or 19 radio stations around the United States, real random areas. And one morning I got a phone call from a disc jockey named H.D. Ainsworth, who at that time had won the CMA Disc Jockey of the Year twice. And he called me and he said, "Hey, this lady heard you on radio today. She wants you to call her. She wants to help you." And he said, "I know her personally. She can." So I called this lady up. Turns out she's one of the bigger radio promoters in the state of Texas. And in about 10 days, she had me on 550 radio stations. And it just snowballed from there. I'm not sure how many stations we're on now. The last time I knew it was over 8,000. I think that number's probably tripled by now. But anyhow, the next thing you know, I got a notification. I got a phone call from the Academy of Western Artists telling me that I had been nominated and I was a top 10 finalist for Album of the Year and for Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year. And that was a shock to me because that was never a goal of mine. That was not even on my radar. And honestly, I didn't think I was even capable of something like that. So then months later, they cut it down to 5 finalists in each category, and I made it in both categories. I went to the big red carpet hoopla that they hold at TCU in Fort Worth, and I won the Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year, which changed my life. 8 days later, I had 2 Nashville labels ready to sign me, and a third label that I was on their radar. And I ended up committing to Clarksville Creative Sound because of the producer Kurt Ryle, who he had produced artists like Mel Tillis and Vern Gosdin and Trisha Yearwood, Leanne Womack, Billy Ray Cyrus, Dean Dillon. He played guitar on Taylor Swift's Platinum album. He played steel guitar on John Anderson's Seminole Wind, which went gold. And he wrote a lot of songs. I think he wrote 18 #1 songs. That's the only statistic I'm not sure of, but I do know that he wrote a #1 hit for George Jones. So I committed to that label. I got a new album out, and it's doing extremely well. I was notified in October that it's the most played Western Swing album on radio around the globe. We're up for 2 Ameripolitan Awards. We're up for 6 ISSA Awards, which is the International Singer-Songwriter Association, and that's held in Atlanta, Georgia. We're up for 5 awards at the Red Carpet Awards in the Netherlands, and the album finished in the top 5 for the IWMA, which is the International Western Music Association. So it's pretty exciting. About a week and a half, less than 2 weeks ago, I believe, I was notified that I am going to receive the Heroes of Western Swing Award in the state of Texas by the Cowtown Society of Western Music. And I will be receiving a medallion and a certificate from Governor Abbott. And then the biggest news is that I am being inducted into the Western Swing Hall of Fame in California in October.
Yes.
And that means everything to me.
That is amazing, Eric. Amazing. You are going to be taking home a lot of awards real soon.
Well, we'll see. It looks like it's going to be a really good year for resume building. Although I tell people, everybody's like, "Aren't you excited?" And I'm like, if I was 30 years old, I'd probably be down at the saloon celebrating with all my buddies. But because of my age, and I've been doing this for 43 years, I'm concerned that this is my last shot at making a living playing music. And so that's kind of my approach.
Wow, Eric. Amazing what you have just told me and the people out in podcast land. A great journey that you've had and continue to have. Incredible. Now, let's get to your EPs. You've got All of Me, and then they're what they call Playboy.
They Call Me a Playboy was the first album,
Right.
and it's still doing real well. We sold more than 13,000 copies of that out of the back seat of a pickup truck.
That's amazing.
The new album is selling at a much faster rate. Of course, we haven't matched the number in sales yet, but we've sold $10,000 worth of CDs from May 13th till November 19th. And you can't get the CD in stores, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we've been selling it at festivals. We've been selling it online. We've been selling it through Facebook. And everybody's been happy. I tell anybody that's curious about the albums, it comes with a money-back guarantee. That's how good that album is. We've gotten 3 of the biggest music reviewers in the world have given it a top 5-star rating. One of the comments I hear most is that the album is strong from top to bottom. It's a 12-song album. Everything on the album is very strong. Kurt Ryle is a tremendous producer, and he put together a heck of a good album for me. I'm no longer working with Clarksville Creative Sound, and I'm currently in negotiations. I've been talking to 3 different labels. I've narrowed it down to 2, and we looked at contracts yesterday. I'll be receiving some more information in the mail this coming week, and shortly I'll be making a decision. Basically, I just want to work with honest people. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that in the recent times, and I just want someone that wants to make some money by putting me to work. My favorite thing is the live performance. I love interacting with the audiences. I love being on stage. I just want to work with a label that's going to get me out there, put me on tour, let me make them some money, and I hope I can continue to perform for at least another 10 years. We'll see whatever God gives me.
I don't see why that can't happen. You are incredible gentleman, Eric. So with your 2, CDs or LPs are going great and stuff there. Now, I'm sure they can find your music on platforms. Can you shout out a couple of platforms to the podcast audience where you might be?
Yeah, we're actually available on all music platforms worldwide. So you can check us out on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple iTunes, any of them. You can follow me on Facebook. You can send me a friend request on Facebook. I don't have many openings left, and my management kind of wants me to keep that for industry people. But you can certainly follow me or send me a request. You can send me a private message on Messenger if you want to order either one of the CDs or both. I've got a deal for you if you want both albums. And anyhow, that's where you can find us, or at live performances, which we'll be posting on Facebook primarily for the time being. Eventually, we will be on all social media platforms. I was on TikTok and some other stuff with the record label that I was with, but I'm no longer with them. And so I've got new management now. Caden Gordon, who's absolutely tremendous and has helped my career immensely in a short period of time. And we've decided that we're going to make this a lifelong business venture. So we're just slugging away at it, My next festival is March 21st, 22nd, and 23rd in Wichita Falls, Texas, at the Western Swing Society of the Southwest. It's a 3-day dance event, and some of the best in Texas will be performing there. There'll be bands from 10 a.m. until 11 o'clock every day for 3 days in a row. I'll be at the Bob Wills Birthday Bash the first weekend of March. I'm not sure I'm going to be performing. I may get an opportunity to guest perform, but I don't know that. But I will be tearing up the dance floor, and I'll be there if anybody wants to buy the albums. I'll have some albums with me, and I will be dance. My goal is to dance 24 miles.
Wow. And you can do that. Incredible, Eric. You, like we've talked before, you are the hardest working man in the business.
Well, the record label announced me as that multiple times on the internet. Plus, they brought me on stage at National Hall in Fort Worth with that introduction. But I tell people I'm not the hardest working man in country music. I'm the most desperate. I am driven by fear. And so that is why I work 16 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Oh, well, it's paying off, my friend. Yes, I see a big future ahead of you. Oh, boy. Now we've got about, 10, 13 minutes left. Let's get some questions in here, okay? So I need to let's just take a short thing. Your band, amazing band. They sound like great musicians, possibly studio musicians, but you have a wonderful band that backs you up.
Well, like I said, I worked in multiple bands. All of them were great. The Rocky Mountain Playboys was my band, and those guys were tremendous. Much love. A lot of players worked in that band over the years because guys would get picked up by bigger artists. I worked with several musicians that worked for Neil McCoy. Peter Neds worked for me off and on. He was Johnny Rodriguez's guitar player. Several guys that worked for Freddie Fender. other big stars, Fiddlin' Frenchy Burt. Travis Cherry worked for me for a while as a drummer, a tremendous drummer and singer that worked for Fiddlin' Frenchy Burt. So yeah, I've been lucky to have great players. The last 7-8 years, everybody that I'm using at my showcases and shows is in the Western Swing or the Country Music Hall of Fame. And I usually have a big band, anywhere from 7 to 9 pieces. So, which I really like for swing music, especially, you need that big instrumentation. When I was with the record label, they had a band of hand-picked all-stars that had all worked with the royalty from the Grand Ole Opry. And that was a pleasure to work with that band, an absolute pleasure. Currently, like I said, the last 7-8 years, I'm working with all the Hall of Fame guys from the Western Swing Society. And that's usually who I recruit from when we do outside jobs.
Okay. Great. Amazing people you're working with. Amazing what you're doing, Eric. Now, I've got so much to cover here in a short time. Now, I got some fun questions I want to ask you. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
All right. This question, I like to hear the answer. Now, you're up on stage. You're getting ready. You go up on stage. The first tune is hit. You start your singing. You start going. The crowd starts a dancing. They start singing your music. That's got to hit you back in your heart. How does it make your heart feel, Eric?
Well, obviously it's very addictive, and it's the highest high you can ever experience. At least that's my belief. I live for that. I thrive on that. I love the people. I love the live audience. That's what I prefer most, more than recording or anything else, is the live performance. I've done it for so many years now. People ask me, do you get nervous? And I really don't. My adrenaline gets going, especially if it's a big event like National Hall on November 19th was a big deal. And I was running on pure adrenaline because I'd been in the hospital a couple days earlier with a kidney infection for the first time, which isn't a pleasant experience. But adrenaline took over, and we did well. So it's second nature to me. I've done it for so long, and I love the thrill of it. I love the excitement, and I love to be able to perform.
Oh, beautiful. That's beautiful. Everybody in podcast land, I hope you're checking out Eric Diamond on the platforms. And I hope you've grabbed your lady by the hand and are dancing, because it's wonderful, beautiful country swing music. It is, Eric. It is. So let's continue on. You're getting a lot of airplay, indie airplay. You got what? Black Dog Indie Country Radio, top 20. You're just doing it.
Yeah, I had a song that stayed in the top 20 in Georgia for 5 months. And then we fell out for 1 week, and then we were back in it for another 2 months. And now I've had several songs land in the top 20 there in Georgia with Black Dog. Currently, one of my songs off the old album called Live Fast, Love Hard, Die Young, it moved all the way to number 2. We had a song on the Airplay Express, Playboy, went all the way to number 1 last year. We've been in the album was 8 weeks for album at the number 1 album for on the Indie Express charts. We've been in the top 10 on 6 additional international country music charts, and we finished in the top 10 on the Outlaw Front Porch, which got us in People magazine in January. So that was a big exciting thing there. I was one of 5 finalists to be on the Kelly Clarkson show. Unfortunately, they decided to go with someone else, but hopefully I'll get that opportunity again. But just to be considered and be in the 5 finalists for that was a thrill. And we've got some TV shows coming up. There's so many radio stations that have been kind and playing my music all over the country and all over the globe. I mean, I was shocked that people are listening to Eric Diamond in Africa, of all places.
Eric, you're everywhere. You are everywhere, my friend. Oh, that is incredible. Oh, let's get another question. And now you've played with some amazing artists out there. Now, is there one or maybe two artists in the world that you haven't performed with that you'd like to step on stage with?
It's funny you asked that. Someone asked me that a week ago. If I could who would I collaborate with? I mean, there's so many that I got to open for a lot of good acts. I opened for Mel Tillis, Ricky Van Shelton, Debbie Reynolds, the Everly Brothers, Eddie Arnold. But if I ever got the opportunity to collaborate with someone, it would have to be George Strait. I mean, all the guys that are my age and this generation, you know, he's the king. He's the greatest. I tell everybody he's second only to God in the state of Texas.
That is beautiful. Oh man, that would be a great show, you and him. Yes, it would be. That is incredible, incredible. Oh, let's see where we're going next here. Okay, we got time for another question here. Anywhere in the world, what stage would you like to perform on that you haven't? Anywhere in the world.
Well, one of the stages that's certainly a bucket list of mine is the big nighttime headliner stage in Turkey, Texas for the Bob Wills Day Festival. That's something that would be a dream come true. That's something that I really hope that I might accomplish before my time is done. I like playing anywhere and everywhere. I prefer to play for dancing audiences. I got two funny stories if you got time.
I've got 6 minutes.
Well, so we're a dance band. We play dance music, you know, and I grew up in the Southwest where you're always playing for a dance audience. And in Texas, you know, they have dance floors that are as big as a hockey rink or bigger. You know, there's the dance floor at Anhalt in Texas. The dance floor alone is 5,000 square feet. Wow. So I love to play for a dancing audience, but years ago we played a job for the Pepsi Cola Corporation, and we were in Otter Tail, Minnesota. We struck up the first song, and everybody just stared. Nobody danced. Everybody just stared, and I was like, "Oh my God!" But as soon as we were finished, the audience erupted with you know applaud and clapping and so forth. So that was okay, but it was strange not to be playing for a dancing audience. And then another job we did, we were playing on the Canadian border in the middle of winter in Bemidji, or I'm not sure, but it was on the Lake of the Woods, right there at the Canadian border, and it was a farmers convention. And there were only two women in the entire audience. One was the bar manager, and the other one was the waitress. And the rest of the audience. And I turned to the bass player, Mel Travis, who was like a dear brother to me. He had worked for Leon Everett, and Mel was with me for 4 years on the road, and we're still very close friends, like brothers to this day. But I turned to Mel and I said, "Okay, no love songs tonight."
That's kind of a strange audience, isn't it?
But we luckily there was a farmer that liked to sing, a young farmer, and all the farmers liked this young guy. So we'd get him up on stage every night, and so the crowd loved us. We got through the week, everybody was happy, and we got paid. But that was one of the strangest jobs I ever did.
What comes along in your journey of the music business?
Yes, sir.
Oh, it's crazy. In my 40 years, I've seen a lot too. Yeah, we're kind of running out of time, Eric. I have a lot more I want to talk to you about. We might have to do a second show, brother. We might. I
would love to, man. I appreciate the opportunity. Anytime, man. I got plenty of time whenever.
Okay, well, I'm going to get hold of you, but we're going to end the show the right way. I'm going to put a song of yours on the background, and we're going to finish out the show. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
You hear that, Eric?
I do. I recognize that one. That's kind of our signature song.
That's right. This is Eric Diamond. They call me a playboy. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Greatest swing music out there. Check out Eric Diamond wherever you are, wherever he is. Please go and support your artist out there. Eric, it's been a pleasure having you on the No Cover TV podcast today. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Al. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Oh, you were going to do talking a lot, my friend. We are. Real quick, what do you see in the next 5 years of the future? What do you want to happen?
Well, I just want to make sure I can keep a roof over my head, pay the electric bill, and eat. And I'm hoping to be playing the state fair circuit. I hope to be up in Branson. They've talked about using me for PRCA and PBR shows. I'll go anywhere and I'll play anywhere. Just looking for more opportunity.
Good deal. We're going to make that happen for Eric. Eric, you're going to be all over the world, and as you are already, but let's make you get all over. So you are in every household. You need to be. With music does not die, ladies and gentlemen. It is strong and going, isn't it, Eric?
Yeah, matter of fact, Western swing is on the climb. It's always come and gone in cycles. And that's another reason I know God has his hand in all this. Right now, Western swing is on the climb, heading towards the peak, actually, in the United States, and it's giant overseas. A gentleman named Mike Marquardt just did a 3-year documentary on the history of Western swing that's going to be on PBS, RFD, the Cowboy Channel. I've watched the documentary 5 or 6 times now. It's tremendous. And I think it's not only going to help me, but I think it's going to help all Western swing artists and bring Western swing back into the forefront where it truly belongs. I mean, it's the greatest American form of music there is.
I agree with you, Eric. I agree with you. And I am sure 98% of everybody out there agree with you. So everybody in No Cover TV podcast land, check out Eric Diamond's music. It is wonderful. We just got listening to some of your music. So, Eric, we're going to wrap up the show. This is your show. Anything you want to wrap up? Say hi to anybody?
Well, I just want to say hi and thanks to everyone that helped me get where I am today. The list is way too long, but all the fine folks with the Western Swing Society, all the wonderful musicians and performers in the Lone Star State in Oklahoma and all around. Check us out on Facebook. Follow me on Facebook. We're available on all music platforms. Give it a listen. Check out Eric Diamond. Just type out in Eric Diamond, All of Me. And that'll take you to all 22 recordings that we have out right now.
Beautiful, Eric. Thank you so much, Eric, for stepping foot in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with some more great shows. But this today is all about Eric Diamond. Check him out. Check his music out wherever he's playing. Again, Eric, I appreciate it very much. I'm going to get this to the platform, and I'm going to chat with you after the show. How's that sound?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. You have a great evening, a great day, and I'm going to keep in touch with you, brother. Oh, yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
I
yes.
appreciate it.
Not a problem. So everybody on Podcast Land, thank you very much for checking out the show, the future shows, the past shows, and just support your music out there. The national, the locals, they're doing it what they love to do to make your hearts glow. Because you work 8-10 hours of that BS job sometimes, and you want to hear some great music. Check out Eric Diamond. Right, Eric? Yes. So, Eric, we're going to get out of here, my friend, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll talk to you soon, brother. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
You bet, Al. And you can get my phone number, my private phone number from Caden, and just give me a call, and we'll shoot the shit.
We'll shoot the shit, brother. All right, I will talk to you very soon. Okay.
All right, take care.
Take care, everybody. All right, Podcast Land. We'll see you. We're out of here. Peace. See you, Derek.